Level 1. The gift you didn't ask for. You're 11 years old. You're sitting at the dinner table and your parents are smiling, laughing, passing the bread. But something is wrong. You don't know what it is. You can't name it. But it's there, like a low hum beneath everything. You watch your father's jaw. It's tight. Too tight for someone who's laughing. You watch your mother's hands. They're moving too fast. Too busy. You don't say anything. But 3 weeks later, they announce the divorce. And you realize you already knew. You didn't know how. You didn't know why. But somewhere in you, there's a reader, a scanner, something that processes the world below the surface. Most people live in the surface. You were born to live underneath it. At school, you start noticing who's lying in class presentations. Not because they stumble over words, because their blink rate spikes. You notice the teacher who is scared of the loud student, even though she's the adult in the room. You notice the popular kid isn't confident. He's performing. There's a difference. Nobody else sees it. They just clap. And you stand there, quiet, wondering why you're the only one who feels like you're watching a stage play, while everyone else thinks it's real life. This is level 1. The gift arrives before you understand it. And like all powerful things, it comes without instructions. Level 2, the pattern begins. You're older now, maybe 16, maybe 19, and you've started to realize your strange awareness has a name. You read about it online at 1 a.m. Words like hypervigilance, words like emotional attunement, words like high sensitivity. Some of these words come from trauma literature. That part makes you pause, because the truth is, many people who see beneath the surface learn to see there for survival. Something in your past made it necessary to read rooms, to predict moods, to know what was coming before it arrived. Your nervous system became a radar, and now you can't turn it off. You walk into a job interview at 19. Entry-level retail. Nothing serious. But you notice the interviewer is tired, genuinely exhausted. She's running on obligation, not enthusiasm. So you don't pitch yourself hard. You make her laugh. Light. Easy. You get the job. Your coworker, who had a better resume and rehearsed answers, doesn't. You don't celebrate. You just file it away. People make decisions emotionally, then justify them logically. You've always felt this. Now you've just proven it. At parties, you stand slightly off-center, not isolated, just observing. You watch how groups form, who orbits whom, who holds tension in their shoulders when a specific person speaks. You can map the invisible hierarchy of any room within 15 minutes. People think you're mysterious. You're just paying attention. Level 3, the first real use. Now you're using it deliberately. Maybe you're 22. You're in a negotiation for a freelance project. The client is sitting across from you in a coffee shop on some busy street. Midday loud, crowded. He says the budget is fixed. Non negociable. But his body says something else. His eyes move left when he says non-negotiable. That's a construction move. He's building the word as he says it, not recalling a fact. He shifts forward slightly. That's engagement. He wants this deal. You lean back. Calm. You say, I understand. I just want to make sure what I deliver is worth exactly what you're paying for. You let the silence sit there. He fills it. He raises the budget by 30%. You walk out with the deal and more money than you expected. You don't feel guilty. You feel like you finally used the thing that's always lived inside you. Over the next months, you use it everywhere. In conversations, you know when to speak and when to go silent, because silence, you've learned, is often more powerful than words. You know which coworker is about to quit. You know which manager is threatened by you. You know which friend is lying about being fine. You start keeping a mental journal. Patterns, people, predictions. You're right more than you're wrong. And that begins to feel intoxicating. Level 4, the loneliness no one talks about. Here's what they don't show in the movies about people like you. It is deeply, profoundly lonely. You're at a gathering. Friends, drinks, laughter. The kind of night that looks good in someone's story. But you're half present, because part of your brain is always running the scan. You notice your best friend is performing happiness tonight. You can see the seams. You notice a couple at the table is 3 arguments deep into a cold war no one else is watching. You notice someone laughing too hard, which isn't joy, it's relief. They needed this distraction. You see all of it, and you can't unsee it, and you can't talk about it. Because the moment you say, I can tell you're not actually okay, to someone who's performing fine, they feel exposed, invaded, angry. So you learn to carry what you see. Alone, you become a vault. The dangerous part isn't seeing too much. The dangerous part is what happens when you start wondering if anyone in your life sees you. Not the version of you that's readable, the version underneath. You start testing people. Small tests. Watching if anyone catches your microexpressions. Watching if anyone notices when you're performing. Almost nobody does. And for the first time, the gift starts to feel like a cage. Level 5, the dark application. You're in your mid-20s now. You've gotten better, sharper, more precise, and you've discovered something uncomfortable. This ability doesn't just help you read people. It helps you influence them. You study persuasion, not manipulation. At least that's what you tell yourself. Persuasion. You learn that people make decisions based on emotion, confirmation bias, loss aversion, and social proof. You learn that if you frame a sentence correctly, you can shift someone's decision before they realize. A decision is being made. You test it carefully at first. You help a friend see why they need to leave a relationship they're afraid to leave. You don't push. You just ask the questions that lead them to the conclusion themselves. They thank you. They say you're the most insightful person they've ever met. But then comes the moment that changes everything. A business rival, someone who's been quietly undermining you in a workplace or a project, is in a meeting with a shared client. And you decide, not today. You read the rival in real time. You see where he's uncertain, where he's overcompensating, where the client is losing interest, even though the client doesn't know it yet. And you move. A question here, a reframe there, a moment of strategic silence followed by exactly the right anecdote. You don't attack the rival directly. You just make yourself undeniable. The client chooses you. Your rival drives home confused about what happened. You know exactly what happened. And somewhere in you, a line gets moved. Not crossed. Not yet. Just moved. Level 6, the architecture of control. You start to understand something that most people never learn. Social environments are not random. They're systems. And like any system, if you understand the mechanics, you can influence the output. You know which person in an organization is the unofficial emotional center. Not the leader with the title, but the person whose mood sets the tone of the room. You know that if you gain their trust first, everything else becomes easier. You know that in any group, there is one person who is quietly hungry for validation. If you see them, really see them, before anyone else does, they become loyal in ways that surprise even them. You're not exploiting this. You tell yourself that. You're just understanding the architecture and moving through it efficiently. But let's be honest with ourselves here, because this is the level where it gets complicated. When does awareness become advantage? When does advantage become leverage? When does leverage become control? The line is thin, and it moves every time you push it. You begin to understand why some of history's most dangerous people were not the loudest in the room. They were the ones watching from the edges. They were the ones who saw what everyone else missed, and they knew exactly when to move. Level 7, the mirror shatters. You're good at seeing everyone, but you stop seeing yourself. This is the moment, and it comes for everyone with this gift who doesn't protect against it. You become so focused on reading outward that you've lost access to your inward. You feel something. You immediately analyze it instead of feeling it. You're sad, but instead of sitting with the sadness, you start profiling your own sadness. Where did this originate? What triggered it? What behavioral pattern does this follow? You've turned the scanner on yourself, and it doesn't work, because the scanner works by distance, and you can't be distant from your own pain. People close to you start to feel it. Your partner says, I never know what you're actually feeling. Your friend says, you always know everything about everyone, but you never let anyone know anything about you. They're right. You've been so armored by perception that you've forgotten how to be perceived. The very gift that made you powerful has built a wall so precise, so invisible, so expertly constructed, that even you can't find the door anymore. Level 8, the cost nobody warned you about. Let's talk about the body. Because here's what extended hyper-awareness does to you physically. Your nervous system has been running at a heightened state for years. Low-grade anxiety that you've learned to call being alert. Difficulty sleeping because your brain keeps running pattern checks even when your eyes close. Headaches, jaw tension, a shoulder that never fully relaxes. You walk into a restaurant and you've already clocked the exits, assessed the energy of every table within 10 feet, and identified the two people having the worst night in a room. Before you've even sat down, you can't stop it. It runs automatically now. And the cost is this. You are exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Because it's not your body that's tired. It's the part of you that never stops watching. You start to understand something. The people who seem unbothered, who laugh without scanning the room first, who trust without calculating odds, they're not naive. They're free. And for the first time, you want what they have. Not the gift, not the power, just the freedom to exist in a moment without analyzing it to pieces. Level 9, the reckoning. You're sitting alone somewhere quiet. Maybe early morning, maybe late at night, and you ask yourself the question you've been avoiding. What do I actually want? Not what you built, not what you've won, not what you've read in other people. What do you want? And the silence that follows that question is the loudest thing you've ever heard. Because the truth is, you've spent so long reading the world that you never wrote your own story. You've been reactive, responding to what you sense, what you predict, what you see coming, but you've never been generative. Never moved towards something purely because you wanted it, without calculating how the room would receive it. This is the reckoning. Not a dramatic downfall, not a public collapse, just a quiet, devastating clarity. You've been using a superpower as a shield, seeing everything so you never have to be seen, understanding everyone so no one has to understand you, predicting danger so you never have to admit you're afraid. The gift was never the problem. The hiding inside the gift, that was the problem.